fast, or?
I don't know.
Oh, look at that.
Ugh. Put your back out?
Tiny bit, but that's okay. You gonna film before lunch?
Yep.
Okay. Cool. Cool boots. Do you want the dishwasher turned off while you're filming?
No, it's okay. I'm doing a raw footage thing. I'm wondering if you would mind just checking my camera for me.
Okay.
No,
Do you know how much space she got?
I don't know, but it's due to as a function. Part of my.
We are filming now. We're filming.
Yes, I know. How does it look?
Looks good. It's down to your hands,
Yeah, that's okay.
and we don't get the top of the book stack.
Oh, okay.
So,
Do you want to pull it back a bit then?
what if I
Pull it
just go?
towards you?
Okay. Where do you normally hold your hands?
All over the place.
Yeah. I think put just above your belly button.
Mm-hmm.
There, your hands are just in the screen.
Okay.
Where you want them, or
No, it's not very important. The books are more important. Can you,
yeah.
if you pull back a bit.
I think we also have to tilt up just a little bit. You want to see the tops of at least one of them, right?
Yeah, at least.
So right now this pile is stopping with your little classics with the gold spines right
Okay.
there,
All right.
and the other one is see the top of it.
Okay, great.
It's kind of nice to see it go past.
Okay,
Okay,
cool.
all right. Shall we stop and start again, or
Nope,
you're just gonna go?
I got a reason. I have a reason. Okay. Good morning. Welcome to Books at the Bottom of the Stairs. My name's Lorene. Today I decided to play fast and loose with the books on both of our TBRs, because if that was all mine, that Both those piles were all mine. I think something drastic would have to happen, and it probably involves running away from home with a big wagon behind me full of books and a flask of hot tea. Anyways, I decided it would just be fun to compare whose pile of books was bigger. And I did expect this outcome, that mine would be taller than Steve's, and Steve's, I did not go around into his office and get those books, and he has probably 4 or 5 books beside where he sits at the couch with books he's in the middle of, and sometimes he keeps one upstairs beside the bed for bedtime reading. So it's possible that it would come to here, but what I haven't included here is the pile upstairs that I've just kind of created, that knowing that I want to read that in the summertime. So I'm pretty sure there's another 7 books up there. And what happens for the summertime is we try and find books that we both agree that we'd like to share, just to try and keep the number of books containable. In the summertime, the books generally go into 2 boxes in the back seat of the car at the camp, and we just kind of switch in and out. Anyways, I'm just very impressed by this, because ordinarily Steve is much more measured in the amount of books that he's got sort of on his back burner. Now, Steve is definitely a nonfiction reader, and quite often he has books on his shelves in his office, which I can't even begin to think how many books are on there. And he will reread a book if it's up, something's going on in his head, and he's thinking, oh yeah, I want to see that. But his nonfiction reading can occasionally be just, he doesn't necessarily go beginning to end. He may pull out a couple of chapters that are germane to whatever he's thinking these days, and then put it back on the shelf. So he's probably got, I'm going to just guess 20% of his bookshelves is not completely read. Whereas for me, the last 2 years, I have really seriously gone through my bookshelves and pulled the books that I don't think I'm ever going to get to reading, or I have, added them into this list. And I think there are only 4 books that are in the summer pile that I'm going to definitely get around to. So it was really just a stunt. It's a circus stunt. So how many does he have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. And out of those, how many have I read? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 out of 28 are books that I thought that he might like, and he agreed. And out of his pile of stuff that I haven't read, how many of them do I want to read? There's one in here, High Wind in Jamaica, I want to read. That's about some kids in Jamaica and pirates and stuff. So that one sounded like fun. And I'm not sure about the Laurie King one. Probably get to that one in the summer sometime. So how many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 34, 35 to 28. So I'm not going to do the math on that. There's probably, pardon me, there's probably some kind of important math thing happening there, but I don't know what it is. Okay, so that was my tour de force today, and what I am going to speak to you about are some goodies and some baddies. I'm reading Richard Peck, The Best Man. It's a recent book for him, and I thought that I had read this before, but it's recently published. Richard Peck has so many books. I thought I'd been doing a pretty good job of trying to keep current with him because I love his books. I can't think of a single book that I have disliked. Now, I find that he writes for sort of the upper middle age group and the younger young adult reader group. So he's at that cusp, transitional cusp. And I think for the young adults that he appeals to, they're either just slower readers, or I don't want to say the word unworldly. Let's go with unworldly, and who still like a good, strong story and not necessarily a whole bunch of anxiety and angst, which we get a lot of in young adult reading. So anyways, Richard Peck has done a lot for that age group, and he also, I just discovered, this is a really good list of all that he's accomplished. There are 4 novels for adults that I'm going to definitely put on my to-do list because, I mean, really, he has never disappointed. I think that he is just a brilliant author for also middle grade readers who want a bit of a challenge. You know, they've got through the early chapter books. These are definitely, they're sophisticated chapter books. So I think, yeah, they're definitely one of my favorite style of writing type books. All right, I've finished book 3, Knock 3 Times for Wizards of Once by Cressida Cowell. Cowell. And still loving it. Still a really strong series, and her artwork continues to be just really diabolical. That's the Queen Skortska on the back of a snowcat with her arch enemy, Wizard Enzo. And they have quite an interesting backstory as well, along with the kids developing their current story. So many layers to the storylines, very few inconsistencies in terms of plot. The magic makes sense. We've got a narrator that we don't know who it is, and reliable narrator, but just sort of a secret identity. There's one more book in the series that I have right here, so I'm not going to read all of those before I get to that. I will pull it out. We will have a catastrophe. Okay, the other one that I just finished last night, I stayed up quite late to finish it, is The War That Saved My Life, and by Kimberly Brubaker Bradley. And this was a book that was on my to-read list, I'm going to say probably in 2017, 2016. I probably, knowing me, I came across it in Horn Books. When was it published? 2015. Yeah, so that makes sense. So anyhow, I really liked it. It's a story about a young girl, Ada. She's 10 years old, and she's got her younger brother, Jamie, and she has the most appalling, neglectful mother. And she also has a club foot. And club feet in those days were curable, very fairly minor surgeries depending on the torsion of the foot, but really there were easy remedies to having a club foot in these days, and these days are just before World War II breaks out in England. So Ada, along with her brother Jamie, sneak aboard a train because they want to get away from the situation with Mom, and they are going out with the evacuee children to the countryside, and they end up, as many of these stories do, they end up with someone who really doesn't want them, and she's grieving the loss of her best friend. So all 3 of them just have really prickly personalities. Ada in particular, she's been, significantly abused with neglect and punishment, and she just cannot believe that good things are hers to have. She cannot believe that anybody sincerely cares for her. She has so much trauma that she has to overcome, and we do see her exhibit some of these traumas. So I would think, would this be a trigger book? I'm not sure, it might be. I mean, I think if you had a child that had that kind of experience, you might want to pre-read it. I don't think this is excessive, but yeah, if you had a highly strung child at the moment, then no, don't go for this book. But the story of Ada and coming to trust and coming to love is really brilliant. And the fact that she's got this disfigured foot and the things she manages to accomplish while overcoming absolutely no support for the first 10 years of her life, it's a very remarkable story. Now there is book 2, and I'm just struggling with the idea of, do I want to read book 2? This is so complete in and of itself that I think I'm going to bypass book 2 because I think, yeah, like she's just such a lovely character and everything's so complete in the storytelling. I think I'm just going to be bad and not read book 2 and just continue to love book 1. The other book I read that I'm disappointed by also takes place in World War II. It's part of the Persephone Press series. The book outsides are pretty dull, but the insides are gorgeous. And this is The Two Mrs. Abbots, and it's the third in a series. It's written by D.E. Stevenson. The first one was Miss Bunkle, which I really enjoyed. That one is about the woman who becomes Mrs. Abbott in book 2 and is Mrs. Abbott in book 3. And Miss Bunkle has got a delightful way of seeing her fellow villagers, and writing rather pithy caricatures of life in the village and the people who are there. And so the first book takes us through Miss Bunkle's early authorship experiences, and she meets her publisher, and that story develops, and it was very quite charming. And I can't give it away. If I give away the ending of book 1, then you're not going to go for it. But I think Miss Bunkle is definitely the best of the 3. And the second one is called Mrs. Abbott, I think, and it tells about her new married life. And I wasn't 100% on board with it. It wasn't quite as charming because it was more about Mrs. Abbott as opposed to her fellow travelers in the village. And this one is supposed to be the two Mrs. Abbots, and so Mrs. Abbott the first has a nephew, or nephew-in-law, Sam Abbott, and he marries a girl from the village, and she becomes the second Mrs. Abbott. So there are two Mrs. Abbotts in the village, and it doesn't matter a damn whit. I mean, it's really, there's hardly anything here about the two Mrs. Abbotts. It's very not about them interacting themselves with the villagers, but we see personalities of the villagers mostly without interacting with either of the two Mrs. Abbotts. This was a good book to have beside the bed because I could read a chapter. I knew I was going to get a nice little chapter. It was calming, soothing, occasionally humorous, but zero plot line, and I didn't think there was a lot of cohesion. I mean, if you hadn't read the first two books to understand the style of D.E. Stevenson, I think I probably would have turfed this book a little sooner. But I read it to the end, and as I said, one of the reasons I read it to the end was because it was a bedside book. Yeah, so of the three, not as much. I would just recommend the first one. All right, Five Little Indians came into my hands by Michelle Good. Now, as I understand it, I never check out the media hype on a book. If something comes into my hands and I like what it says, I read it, and if I don't, I'm indifferent. But I gather Canada Reads has this as one of the books that are being touted. There's another book club that I sort of lurk through, and it is an Indigenous reading club run by Thundercloud Woman and Raven Reads, and I check their book list and kind of pay attention to their Instagram, but I'm not actively participating, and this was one of their books. So my third book club has got this on their to-do list for 2 months from now, and I think there's something like 137 holds on this book.
guess we can't guarantee that we've got the setup exactly the same.
Close enough.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty close. Don't forget to turn it on.
It is on.
It's on, but it's not recording yet.
Fuck. It is recording.
Oh, is it? Son of a gun, it is recording. Okay.
Right, 5 Little Indians. We had a little interlude. Turns out that the iPad didn't have enough storage, so I went to go and delete something. Turns out we haven't backed up for a little while, so here we are after lunch and 5 Little Indians. Raw footage. Okay, I don't remember what I was saying. Something about the word 12. I have no idea. Anyhow, I have to read it. I have to read it before next month. I've only got 7 days. I have to have it ready for, not tomorrow, but the next Wednesday to give back to the person who owns it. I think it's going to be a difficult read. I think she said that she was crying by page 10, and I'm just not really in the mood for crying. So if I said this already, too bad you get to hear it again. That's what raw footage is. So I have heard that it's a tough read, and I'm not really in the mood for that. It's getting to be spring, the cats are shedding, and that's my sign to know that it's a good time to plant seeds. So I managed to get a bunch of seeds in the basement in their little pots, and hopefully they don't turn moldy. You know, I don't know. That's a whole other story, isn't it? It's planting seeds. So I hope all your reading dreams and adventures continue to come true. I'm going to put this up as a hashtag raw footage and see if it's and call it a new tag and see what happens. See if other people put their craziness in. Actually, you know, from my point of view, this was a pretty quiet videoing experience because usually there's a bell going or Steve's coming in and out, or these cats not so much. The other cat would interrupt quite a few times. So I think from the usual shenanigans, this was a pretty quiet videoing experience, but I'm sure there are those of you who have said, it's taken me about 6 times to get this video started. So I figure there are people out there with good raw footage. Okay, happy spring, bye-bye.